Hey there, guys, everybody. I hope you're still alive, because I am. I was hesitating a bit earlier whether to come out and whatnot, but I do have rather interesting, to me at least, things to share. I also have a small second cup of coffee after lunch, which is hot at this point, sort of hot enough. So I will take the pin out of the hair because I personally feel this looks more friendly and nicer than less McGonagall-ish because I'm already going to, there's gonna be a fairly complicated series of Intel strands that are going to be woven together if I get this done, if I manage. I also have a large pot of herbal tea waiting over yonder. So at some point I will pause and pour myself a mugful of that in order to, keep the show going. So in the past couple of weeks, today is Friday. This is Aline, in case you hadn't noticed. Today is Friday the 16th of October. The thing that you are dreading will happen to you on the 16th of October. That's Professor Trelawney. I was reading that yesterday morning, and because there's a new moon happening later tonight where I am, it was kind of funny. It was doubly funny. I do not suspect that JK actually foresaw this infamous 16th of October. She will have had a reason for using that date, I'm sure, because I think people do that, but not this one. It's a new moon. It's a tough new moon. I will, if I remember, put a link in the description to the astrological astro chart website that I use all the time. I have a hair stuck in my nail now. That I use all the time because it is really practical to move from one moment to the next. So if you want to see how, for example, the moon is doing, how quickly it is moving past your birth position of whatever it is, that's the place to go. It's really practical. You can skip forward by minutes, by hours, by days, by weeks, as you like, backwards and forwards. So I've been using that quite a lot this year. What with Mars going retrograde and now Mercury going retrograde and on and on and on and on, It's interesting. It's not the real reason why I'm here. I am here because I am, vlogging today because I'm actually finding things are simmering down again a bit more. I probably also had like a little hormonal disturbance because that happens to me still. I had a bit of a headache and that kind of thing, I was having toxins and things, and that is not conducive to general happiness. However, I tend to find also that the hormonal complexity or, state of discomfort is very closely linked to what I'm going through emotionally. Always. So there is an absolute kind of a parallel path there between if I'm going through stuff that is tough for me, that I find really, I have to really work on, I have to really sort of inch forward, getting at new ideas and new perspectives and things, then, my hormones are gonna suck. That's it, basically. If I don't do it, if I'm having a carefree set of months, and I'm just generally pottering about with my internet and my cards and my, not caring that much, it's a lot easier. It's so obvious, So there's that. It does get to a point where I get physically into such, basically because of the toxins, such unpleasantness that I have to really look at things do more of an effort, to look at things. And I went in the bath yesterday, I had a couple of aspirins, I had pressed lemon, you know, lemon juice. And I also did a ton of energy work. And that's, of course, the interesting bit here, where I'm going to, you know, sort of zoom in to the energy aspect to the situation at this point. It turns out that I'm finally getting to be able to use energy work, which is kind of impersonal always, where you focus in a particular way, and you can do that however well you are psychologically developed or however happy and balanced you are. It's a technique, really, so it doesn't really have all that much to do with how well you're doing on the inside. You can still do the practice, the focus, the craft, as it were, of the energy work just as well. And it turns out by now, I am actually learning more and more that I can use aspects of this, of energy work for myself in a manner that actually makes a difference. And the main ingredient in all of this is Tummo. So I will do a little reintroduction of Tummo. It is a originally Tibetan meditation technique. It's a Kundalini yoga practice where you, rather than engaging in a Kundalini energy fueled approach, you know, or a Kundalini yoga approach where I don't suppose you really do any directing. It's into the Shakti energy. You, on the other hand, in this particular practice in Tummo, you sort of import the Kundalini, the Shakti energy, into what is known as the lower Dantian in Chinese medicine, which is at the side of the mountains, yes, and it's 1,000 K the other way, but it's the place where it happens in order for that energy to transform there. And boy, do I find this excellent. It is why I am here, basically. It is why I think it is why I have gone through all my things during this past half a century here, because it's a real shame, I think, that Tummo is a secret. Whereas, okay, there's a couple of caveats, as always with Kundalini or Shakti. I'm starting to use both names regardless, you know, at the moment, because who cares? It's the same thing. The more people pick up, if you're not used to the term Shakti, but you have more familiarity with the term Kundalini, then you'll pick up on what I'm saying easier, you know, than if I only use the term Shakti. So here's to you. I mean, thank you for watching and thank you for listening to me talk as always. But I will use whatever term we can need to, you know, get this across. So what happens is normally there's actually, like, I suppose, two schools of thought, really, in that Kundalini energy is imported in the body through the root chakra and meditated on or worked with mantras and mudras and all that type of stuff. In order to have it obtain some sort of discipline. It's not easy. It's never easy, really. You get a thing that is called Shakti awakening, where people go into all sorts of moves and things and spontaneous eruptions of activity, which is not my ideal approach because I had too many problems to do anything like that. I was never tempted to go to India and have that kind of stuff just imported, there's the word again, into my system without me having any say over it, you know. And I think that is the basic reason also why all this stuff is still very secret and inaccessible and kind of kept out of the way. But for someone like me, with the sets of issues that I've had all my life, that I've also gone into over the past couple of weeks a number of times from different perspectives, you know, I've gone into the whole narcissism issue and the whole, I have never been diagnosed a narcissist myself, but I think I just narrowly escaped the diagnosis because I stayed away from the medical profession as much as possible. So I never went to get diagnosed because I was on to them. You know, I wasn't going to go for that because I don't think that really helps me at all, you know. Same with things like bipolar and depression and all that kind of stuff. I, on the other hand, have always been someone who believes in the future, I suppose, and who believes in myself in a certain way. I went like, okay, so I have to figure this stuff out for myself, because quite obviously out there I'm not going to find any remedies and solutions, and maybe I can find a bit more support out there by now, certainly, but not in this way, not by having somebody else tell me to which category I am supposed to conform. You know, that's not going to happen. However, I have learned a lot, especially lately on the internet, about what narcissism tends to make people do and how it really works. And I've gone into all that in the past. There's a playlist on my channel also about narcissist intel and content that is related to that kind of a subject. And I suppose that there are great dangers for quite great numbers of people, you know, who are caught in a relationship with a true narcissistic person enough that this is actually you know, useful to have a look at. It's not really my job to point that stuff out. I have talked about it, and that's always the problem when you do talks like this, is that you have to introduce a gazillion things before you can actually get to where you're going with your story. And so this is another piece of the puzzle to really wind this down rather quickly to the situation at hand at this moment, other than from the astrological perspective, you know. I have been investigating, also using tarot cards, to my great joy and happiness, I must say, the expressions of hidden, darker parts of my consciousness inside me. Especially lately, especially recently, I uploaded a video that has a dark inner child spread that is not for the faint of heart. If you are in need of this, it is probably a really good idea to do this spread for yourself. You can also, and I'm just going to, you know, insert a little tiny chapter in here about that spread. You can also pick and choose for yourself. You do not have to do the whole thing as I show it to you in that video, right? You can say, I'm going to do this spread over the course of a year, thank you very much, because I don't want to do the whole thing in one go like this. It's nuts. Because it's nuts. Yeah, I was nuts. I think I was it's fairly fair to say that I was overdoing it, as I, you know, something I tend to do. I just go ahead and go crazy. Another option would be to pick a part of the spread, or only the beginning and the end, or whichever appeals to you. You know, pick 1, 5, 8, and 11, if that's what you like. I think personally that is how you should go about this kind of stuff. You know best. You know at a particular point if this is at all relevant to you, if you are into this, because there's a ton of inner child card work out there that you can use, which I also did. I did an inner child spread a while ago, a short while ago. I think it was last week even, because of somebody else having done this, and they communicated it to us. And so I went ahead and I did the spread. But that one, compared to the content I had been in, that I had been immersed in for such a long time with my whole narcissism background and intel, all this I don't know what other word to use other than narcissism. Maybe I can get to that during the course of this video. That'd be nice, because I'm kind of getting fed up with the word as well. It has to do with being traumatized, with having aggression sort of transmuted inside of us, getting a life of its own, all that kind of thing. It has to do with identity issues a lot. So that's what I'm all meaning when I say narcissism, okay? I'm going into that from the inside, and it involves a lot of behavioral problems, a lot of attachment problems, and all that, you know? So there was a big, like a difference in wavelength between the inner child spread that I had done happily and that I was happy with the way it turned out. The spread was okay, the cards were completely okay, but I wasn't satisfied because of the discrepancy with my own process that I was in at the time. So hence the dark inner child content that I got pulled at through the cards that came to me, because I went ahead and looked at the whole thing again from the darker, self-serving, defensive, fearful perspective. Righty-ho, over to herbal tea. I've got green tea that has a slice of lemon in it, dried ginger and dried turmeric, as well as a bit of lemon verbena. I hope that's the name. Just a general calming herb, you know. And altogether, it will be a really nice detoxer as well, because that's an ongoing process. Where was I? So I went for that dark inner child spread, and I just went completely to town on it. As I said also in my video at that point, I have to, I just went as far as I could to see the separation more clearly between myself and my inner child, and to see where that would take me, eventually. So the thing is that the spread actually worked rather better than I was expecting myself. I am assuming that it also had to do with the Mercury going retrograde more or less during the same time. And it went retrograde after I had done the cards, but I still felt very strongly that I had to do it at that moment. It was like, okay, so I have to do the spread more or less now. I think that was Tuesday, and then record my findings, and then I ended up uploading that stuff on Wednesday, when what had come about was a sort of a result from the perspective opening up inside me. The result was that I had a memory come up suddenly of actually a quote by Sam Vaknin, or a description by Sam Vaknin, who is the narcissism specialist on YouTube, I think, who goes into how a narcissistic child isn't differentiated. Yes, Poes, my cat is here and wants to have a say in things. She'll be in here for a bit. How they're not differentiated. Narcissistic people, one of the fundamental issues is that they're not differentiated in psychological terms, psychologically I should say, from their mother. So there's an issue with the mother not letting the child go, I think, which was certainly the case for my mum and me. So that being the case, I woke up on Wednesday, which is 2 days ago, by now 2 days and a bit, and this whole thing just fell into my head like, oh my God, if I have this open perspective in front of me, I can suddenly see that inside me, the whole problem for me at this point now, 25 years after my mother has passed away, is still that I am mentally, I'm basically still speaking to her. I'm engaging with her and I am identifying with her in ways that are rather painful for me, because I am not her in any way. And it's really hard to explain how you can let your mother determine how to exist, how to think and feel, you name it. So the funny thing is that because I got this added sort of expansion in that open perspective at that point, a true change came about. And I went through a vibrational process, especially yesterday, where, and this is where I'm going to shift over the whole language over to the energy work side of things again. I found that what with all the toxins, etc., I tend to do a white light exercise, which is like the other half of the Tummo. The Tummo comes from the earth into your body, and then you do that thing with that. There's a whole Tummo playlist if you want it. It's all there, with introductions and things as well. The white light approach is the other end, is where you ask for some kind of, you can describe it any way you like, some angelic type of a vibration that is neutral, that is impersonal, and you ask for that to engage in this energetic vibrational problem that you're having, and to take away to it, to the light, if you like, parts of the energy situation that are bothering you for whatever reason. So, and here it gets to what happened last night, and why this is also interesting, and why it has everything to do with the rest of the intel, which is why it's so complicated. I did a white light meditation, and I had a headache, etc., and had to sit up in my bed in the darkness to let it, not become too much of a problem. So I decided after, my bath and all the rest of it, that I was going to do a proper white light meditation. And then after a while, it takes quite a while to get the white light consciousness present in your system. You have to really open yourself up to that in a way. It is also a moment where I have to disregard my own emotions, my own state of whatever it is that I'm in, confusion and pain even. I have to let it all go in order to benefit from the white light at all. So it's something I've been doing for years, and it still works for me. What happens is that often, and it was the case now as well, the white light shows me a particular vibrational problem. Often, by the time I'm well into the exercise, well into the meditation, say after 15 minutes or so, I will be able to notice vibrational blockages or problems, that exist in the lower half of my aura field, so around my belly and my legs, down from there, which can be things that I've picked up during the day from other people even, or general vibrational things that are going on. I mean, we are still sort of halfway into a new COVID lockdown in this country as well, so there's all sorts of things going on at the same time. Plus there's a new moon coming, plus blah, 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 all that stuff. And people are feeling, I don't think there's such a massive sense of frustration at the moment, not comparable to the springtime, but it's, people are really fed up and really tired and exhausted. And I'm having my hopes really set on tomorrow morning, after this new moon, everything will be different. I hope. Is what I'm hoping. So that's where I was at, see, with this white light, and then I go with the white light into the earth, into the area beneath me in the earth, because there is a earth line that connects your root chakra to the heart of the earth, and that is a really interesting area to investigate with this type of energy, because it the better the energy flow is between the heart of the earth and your root chakra, the better Kundalini work is going to be, and the more available the Kundalini energy will be. So this is what I'm working with. I am quite aware, quite sensitive to the behavior patterns, if you like, behavior patterns of the Shakti energy inside the earth, also beneath my feet. So outside my body, I can feel if it's going or not. Basically, that's what it is. And then focusing with the white light on that area, what I get is a sense of, okay, there's something in here that needs to come out. Sometimes it's some energy that has a very long history in the earth, you know, from wherever it really comes from. Sometimes it is energy that comes from my parents or from my mother, and often also it's energy that comes from completely different people, and even layers of civilization that I don't really know much about. At this point, what happened yesterday night was that a very strong, unique, I mean, never seen before, very strong notion of, if you imagine looking down at the ground beneath your feet, you're standing on the ground, right? That there was like a metal barrier, a metal, a plate of iron sitting in the earth, going from my left side through me, through the earth beneath me, to the right of me. And that didn't feel very good, I can tell you. It was impossible for, you know, in the direction going from like that, back to front and front to back. Very strange. I'd never seen anything like this before. And this is why I'm saying also that energy work is getting more personal and more easy to implement, to use for myself at this moment, because I'm finally getting to areas where it matters, where I can become more of a person that I want to be, instead of using Tummo, you know, also. Instead of having these structures sitting inside of me and I'm none the wiser, basically. So up to now, that was certainly the case. So I stuck a lot of white light in there on all sides for at least another 15 minutes. And I was like, okay, so this gotta go, because this is not good. And I don't know what this energy means. I don't know what is it supposed to be doing. You can't leave it in there because it's obviously not right. It didn't feel very negative. It didn't feel very, you know, harsh, or there wasn't a negative emotion associated with it. It was just impermeable from back to front. And it was in the earth beneath me, but I could also feel it sort of passing through my whole, everything of my whole body, basically. And so I decided that, it would have to go at some point, and I just kept asking white light in, and, you know, sinking that in there and on all sides as much as possible. It didn't extend left and right in a long distance. It was like it was maybe a meter or so, maybe a bit more, on either side of me, and that's where it ended. So I could have the white light go around it, you know, like that. And I realized at one point that actually, coming back to the whole narcissism issue, I'm hoping you're still with me here, the whole area on the front of the metal plate, of the iron door, so to speak, was my created self, my created personality that tended to still identify with my mother, basically, or my father for that matter. My personality that had not differentiated from my parents, from either of them. So you're talking really subconscious material here, of course. Tendencies to still look for safety with them, to look for protection, which I wasn't getting in there. to adapt my behavior, my thoughts, my feelings, adapt all the way. But it's all on the front side of this metal door. Interesting? I hope so. And for a split second, I had an image of another self sitting at the back. And I was actually kind of I just have an image at that moment, you know, looking at myself from the side of a little person sitting there in a very dark room by herself. And there's like a teeny tiny little window of daylight high up, like you would get in a cellar somewhere. It's a little cellar window. And it was real quiet in there. The difference in atmosphere between the front side and the back side was huge. So at that moment I went, okay, so that's what this is about. There at the back of the metal door is where lives the actual differentiated self, the person who doesn't identify a million miles with what everybody has been pouring over my head and drenching me in with their emotions and their troubles. And boy, yeah. So a little while after that, I was still having a white light meditation in there. At some point, the metal door lifted out of the earth into the white light very quickly in an instant and disappeared like that. It just spat away out of it just rocketed into the white light with a like a whistling kind of it's not really a noise, but it's a sensation of pressure and release, you know, like that. And so I was like, okay, wow. So that's gone. And then I was messing around with white light a bit more down there in the earth line and stuff, and it all looked fairly normal, more or less, by then. And I didn't draw any more conclusions. I didn't do any more interesting things. I just fell asleep. Okay, more tea, because tea I have. Turmeric and ginger and greens, so nice. Excellent. So now I can actually do Tummo again, where it's again Shakti work, Shakti energy coming into the lower part of your belly and transforming there, which is what I was going into in the beginning of this video, you know, coalescing in your lower dantian, in your it's not really your second chakra, it's the under half of your second chakra, but it doesn't involve the sexual organs because they sit beneath that still. So you get your root chakra area vibrationally, sexual organs, lower dantian, and then second chakra on top of that, sitting really close together. That's how I look at these kinds of things. Anyway. I have done a bit of Tummo energy work so far this morning, and what happens is that basically I feel a lot more free. The funny thing is that my handwriting has changed. I could show it to you, but it doesn't matter. I don't think it's that interesting. I tend to have this a bit neater, slanted school mistress type handwriting if I try hard enough. Well, not at this moment. I'm just writing any old how, and I feel freer. Yeah, basically that's what it is. I feel like I have been freed, finally, of a massive amount of limitations. It's kind of scary though, because duh, that's what happens, right? You've been a prisoner all your life, and now all of a sudden you're not. So it's like, okay, what am I gonna do next? I honestly don't know. I had a nice card, 6 of Pentacles, in the Thoth deck that I'm using most of all at the moment. I have lots of other things I can do. I can continue working on my oracle cards. I was watching Lisa and Peggy having fun over at the other side of the planet. All that's nice, and I can read more Harry Potter, which I will probably do. Also kind of, you know, it's been a lot, but it does feel like all this sort of ties it up neatly and parks it somewhere where I cannot be hurt that much anymore by everybody's in the past, you know, everybody's extreme forms of dependence on each other. Everybody in my family there was not a single one there that wasn't a victim of some sort in some form or other. And so I suppose that's I'm afraid to say that's rather normal wherever, certainly people of my generation. I was born in 1966, so long after the Second World War, but people like me have a lot of baggage like this. And I suppose that I'm hoping that working with vibrations the way I have, that it helps not only me in this particular instant, but that it will sort of generate a field. You know, you can always dream, can you? A field where people can eventually profit from this type of an approach, even if they don't listen to every word I say here, you know, because it's enough at some point. You just have to see what you can apply, see what works for yourself. And there's lots more, but you don't have to do every single detail the way I do things or whatever. If it inspires you, that's great. But I'd rather have you inspired and off to do your own thing than trying to follow every step of every word that I'm saying here. But I'm doing rather well at this point. I think I will also go for a little walk later on today, because fresh air, essential. And off to, you know, a new moon, and then a new, maybe a new life in the same body, but without all the problems. Wouldn't that be nice? I'm going to end it right here. Thank you for being here. Thank you for, you know, coming along for the ride. And I'll be back next week. Have a nice weekend. And if you're in trouble, blame the moon, okay? You can always blame the moon. And look at it again from a new perspective in the next day. The day after, okay? See you then. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching.